What if the most scientifically important sound a human being ever makes is not their first word, not their first cry, not even their first breath, but the first time they laugh? That sudden, helpless, completely unexpected explosion of pure joy that arrives like a gift from nowhere, usually somewhere around 3 to 4 months of age, when a baby who has never laughed before in their entire short life suddenly hears or sees or feels something, and their whole body responds with a sound so unguarded, so complete, so utterly unself-conscious that every adult in the room stops whatever they are doing and feels something shift inside their chest, something warm and bright and almost painful in its sweetness, because what they are hearing is not just a baby being happy. What they are hearing is, according to some of the most compelling research in developmental psychology, one of the earliest and most profound signals of a human mind coming fully alive, the first outward announcement that something deeply significant is happening inside that tiny, rapidly developing brain. That laugh, the sudden, unprompted, mysterious one that arrives when you least expect it, when nothing obvious has happened, when the baby was perfectly calm a moment ago and is now absolutely dissolved in something that looks for all the world like hilarity, is one of the most misunderstood and underexplored behaviors in all of infancy. And the story of why it happens, what it means, and what it is actually doing for the baby's brain and body and social world is so extraordinary that it reaches far beyond the simple and obvious idea of happiness, out into the territory of cognition and communication, and the ancient evolutionary roots of human joy itself. Let us begin at the biology, because the first thing to understand about baby laughter is that it is not a learned behavior. It is not something babies copy from watching the adults around them, not something that requires a model or a teacher or any prior experience of having heard laughter before. It is built in, hardwired, present in the genome, the same way the sucking reflex is present, the same way the orienting response is present, because evolution decided a very long time ago that laughter was important enough to encode directly into the nervous system rather than leave to chance or to learning. Deaf babies laugh, blind babies laugh. Babies who have never seen another face produce a laugh spontaneously and at roughly the same developmental stage as babies in the most stimulation-rich environments on Earth. And this cross-cultural, cross-sensory universality is one of the most important facts about baby laughter, because it tells you that you are not looking at a learned social performance. You are looking at a biological event, something the human brain does because it was built to do it, because it serves a function so critical that it needed to be guaranteed rather than merely encouraged. What is that function? The answer has several layers, and the first layer is the one most people would guess. Laughter signals positive affect. It signals that the nervous system is in a state of heightened positive arousal. It tells the people nearby that something good is happening inside the baby and that the baby wants to share it, to broadcast it, to make it social. And this broadcasting function is ancient and powerful because a baby who can produce a sound that reliably stops adults in their tracks, that triggers warmth and attention and engagement from the people around them, is a baby who has just discovered one of the most effective social tools their species possesses, a tool so potent that it works across every culture, every language, every generation, a tool that bypasses all the barriers of communication that separate a pre-verbal infant from the speaking world and delivers its message with absolute unmistakable clarity. Something wonderful is happening, come and be part of it. But the second layer is the one that the research makes truly fascinating, and it is this. Laughter in infants is not just an expression of joy that happens after something funny. It is also a processing mechanism, a cognitive tool that the brain uses to manage the experience of something that is simultaneously exciting and slightly threatening, novel and slightly alarming, unexpected, and slightly destabilizing. And this is why the things that make babies laugh are so revealing, because they are almost always things that contain a mild violation of expectation, a small surprise, a moment where the world did something the baby's internal model predicted it would not do, and the laughter is the nervous system's way of resolving the tension that this violation creates, of saying, I noticed something unexpected, I felt the spike of alarm that novelty triggers, I checked whether it was safe, I determined that it was. And this is what relief and delight sound like when they arrive. At the same moment, think about the classic triggers of early baby laughter, and you will see this pattern everywhere. Peekaboo, which works precisely because the face disappears, a genuinely alarming event by the standards of the infant nervous system, since a face that vanishes is exactly the kind of thing that in the ancestral environment would have been worth panicking about, and then reappears, safe and familiar and unchanged, resolving the tension with a warm and recognizable face, and the laughter is the sound of that resolution, the release of the briefly held anxiety into the safety of the known outcome. Silly sounds work the same way. A voice that suddenly does something completely outside its normal pattern triggers a brief orienting response, a spike of mild alertness, and when it resolves into the familiar face of someone safe, making a ridiculous noise, rather than into something genuinely threatening, the relief comes out as laughter. Being lifted and bounced works the same way. The sensation of suddenly losing the ground is a mild alarm. The secure arms that catch and hold resolve it into safety. And the laugh is the gap between the two, the sound of the nervous system flipping from alert to safe in a fraction of a second. This theory, that laughter is the cognitive and physiological experience of a safe resolution to a mild threat, was developed and elaborated by researchers, including Peter McGraw, who called it the benign violation theory of humor. And it explains not just why babies laugh, but why humans laugh at all. Why the things that strike us as funny are so often things that are wrong or unexpected or violating in some small and harmless way. Why the entire architecture of human comedy, from the most sophisticated stand-up to the simplest pratfall, is built on the same basic structure that makes a 4-month-old lose it completely when you blow a raspberry. Here is the first twist that stops people. The timing of a baby's first laugh, usually between 3 and 5 months, with 4 months being the most common, is not arbitrary. It is not just whenever the baby happens to feel good enough. It is tied directly to a specific and measurable stage of cognitive development, specifically the point at which the baby's brain has accumulated enough experience of how the world works to begin forming expectations about it, because you cannot be surprised by something unless you expected something different, and you cannot find something funny unless some part of you predicted it would not happen that way. And so the arrival of the first laugh is actually a cognitive milestone, a developmental marker, evidence that the baby's brain has done enough learning about the patterns and regularities of the world to notice and respond to their violations, which means that every time a baby laughs, they are demonstrating not just happiness, but understanding, not just pleasure, but prediction, not just delight, but the existence of a mental model of the world sophisticated enough to be surprised by what the world does next. This is why developmental psychologists pay close attention to the onset and the quality of infant laughter. Not because they are looking for signs that the baby is happy, but because laughter is a window into the architecture of the baby's emerging understanding of reality, a readout of how much the baby has already mapped and modeled and learned to expect. And any significant delay in the onset of social laughter is one of the early signals that something in the developmental timeline may need closer attention. Here is the second twist. And this one is about what happens not inside the baby who is laughing, but inside the person who hears it, Neuroscientists studying the brain responses of adults who hear infant laughter have found that it activates reward circuits in the adult brain with an intensity that is genuinely remarkable, triggering dopamine release, producing measurable changes in heart rate and skin conductance, lighting up regions associated with pleasure and social bonding in ways that are comparable to some of the most powerfully rewarding experiences a human nervous system can have. Which means that baby laughter is not just a signal the baby is broadcasting for its own benefit. It is a neurological event that happens simultaneously in at least two brains, the baby's and the listener's, and the wave of warmth and delight that a laughing baby sends through every adult in the room is not a sentimental illusion. It is a biological reality, a social bonding mechanism of extraordinary potency that was shaped by millions of years of natural selection to do exactly what it does: make the adults who hear it want to stay close, want to repeat whatever produced the laugh, want to invest more deeply in the welfare of this small, helpless, entirely dependent creature whose continued survival depends on exactly that kind of investment. And this is where the story arrives at something that feels genuinely profound, because what you're looking at when a baby suddenly laughs is not just a moment of joy, not just a cute thing that happens in the middle of an ordinary afternoon. You are looking at a survival mechanism and a cognitive milestone and a social bonding event and a philosophical statement all rolled into one small, helpless, completely irresistible sound. A sound that says, I have been in this world long enough to know what to expect from it. And something just surprised me. And the surprise was safe, and the safety felt like joy. And the joy wanted company. And here is the sound of all of that happening at once. That is what a baby laugh is. It is the nervous system discovering, for perhaps the very first time, that the world can do something unexpected and it will be okay. That surprise does not have to mean danger. That the gap between what you predicted and what actually happened can be filled with something other than alarm. It can be filled with delight, with warmth, with connection, with the light particular feeling of having been caught off guard by something wonderful. And this discovery, made sometime around the 4th month of a human life, is one of the most important discoveries a person will ever make, because it is the foundation of every good thing that comes from being surprised by the world for the rest of a life that will be full of surprises. There is one more dimension to this story that is worth sitting with before it ends, and it is about what happens when you laugh with a baby rather than simply at the spectacle of a baby laughing. When you let their laughter land in you and you let your response go back to them genuinely and fully, when the two of you are in it together, both dissolved in the same moment of shared delight at the same ridiculous thing. Because researchers studying these moments of shared laughter between babies and caregivers have found that they are among the most powerful builders of social synchrony and attachment security that exist in the entire repertoire of early relationship. That the baby who laughs with you and sees you laugh back is learning something about the world that cannot be taught in any other way. Something about the possibility of being fully seen in a moment of joy, about the safety of being met in your most unguarded state, about the particular and irreplaceable feeling of sharing a moment of delight with another person and having that moment be received and reflected and returned, and this experience, repeated across the hundreds of small laughing moments of early infancy, builds into the baby's nervous system an expectation of the world that will color every relationship they ever have, a foundational sense that joy is shareable, that delight is safe, that the best moments are not the ones you have alone, but the ones that someone else was there for. So the next time a baby suddenly laughs, out of nowhere, for no reason you can see, at something entirely invisible to everyone but them, let yourself be pulled in, let the sound reach the part of you that it was designed to reach, laugh back, hold the moment, because what is happening is not small, it is ancient and biological and profoundly important. And the laugh is not random. It is a message from a brain that has just discovered something extraordinary about the world it is learning to live in. And the message is this: I expected one thing, the world gave me another, and it was better than I thought. And I wanted you to know. Subscribe for more mind secrets.